Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Coffee with Carl. I am your host, Carl Zoellner, one of the senior attorneys here with Anderson Business Advisors. And I mentioned I would talk about when it makes sense to take a salary from a C corporation. There are some circumstances in which I would suggest taking a salary from a C corporation. However, you'll want to meet with an advisor to make sure it's the appropriate time for you to do it, or that there's no other way to accomplish your goal. As in if your corporation is already profitable and then you want to take a salary out of it, it is subject or could be subject to double taxation. However, let's talk a little bit about some of the implications of taking a salary and how it actually works when it's from your own corporation. So what's nice is if you're going to take a salary from your C corporation, got to remember it's going to be a deduction to your corporation when they pay the salary, and then you'll accept it and you'll pay your individual tax limits as well as your self-employment tax on the salary. The scenario I'm thinking of that I think makes the most sense, or when it's suggested, is if you're trying to be more lendable and you're trying to qualify for a loan, and you've talked to your lender and your lender's told you what criteria you need to meet to make the loan possible, or the loan go as smooth as possible, and that would require you actually showing more W-2 income. Now, there's a difference between a C and an S. In one of my previous videos, I discussed that the loan process is usually easier if you're paying yourself a W-2 out of your C corporation than your S corporation, because normally the lender will just see the W-2 and not dive into your business. Through an S corporation, they may see a reasonable salary coming out of that S corporation, but you may run into issues when they see the K-1, because then they'll want to dive into your business and check the overall health of your business as well. And a lot of times, if you're just getting started, your business may not look that appealing to a lender. And so we can control sort of what the lender sees in this regard. But to me, when I'm talking about paying myself a salary out of my C corporation, it would be most advisable when I'm trying to fit into that box the lender's painted. The scenario goes something like this. Is, okay, well, my lender told me I need to be making more in W-2 income to qualify for this loan. Otherwise, I'll be looking at another loan that'll be charging maybe a higher rate of interest, or won't be funded or it won't be quite as hefty as the loan I'm looking for. So in this regard, I would run the numbers, meaning I would calculate what I'd be paying taxes on my salary for that time to qualify for the loan. And then I would be looking at, well, okay, so what's the cost of the financing, or the cost of the money I'm getting from another lender? And then I would justify it, meaning if I'm paying, maybe I would pay some additional tax on showing some salary. But if I'm getting a larger loan at a cheaper interest rate, maybe in that scenario, it makes sense for me to pay a little bit of extra tax on a salary to be able to qualify for that loan at a better rate. So this comes into one of the legs of the stool that Anderson talks about, and we talk about our events, is this actually comes into business planning. Because if I'm only looking at the tax side, it looks like, wow, that's a terrible idea if I'm just looking at the tax side, right? I'm paying extra taxes to receive money out of my corporation, and from a tax perspective, that's a knock. But if I then take into consideration what I'm trying to accomplish, now all of a sudden this makes a lot more sense, meaning, yes, I'm taking a little bit of a tax hit up front, but ultimately when I qualify for that loan, I'm getting cheaper money in regards to the amount of interest I'd be paying on that loan. So then the seesaw, or the scale, shifts in the other direction of, absolutely, I'd rather pay a little bit of extra tax up front and get a far better or get a better term on the loan, especially if you think of it on a large sum for a loan, what that interest rate or what that interest rate difference would be and how that would look over that period of time. So when we talk about taking a salary from a C corporation, yes, there may be double quote unquote double tax implications if we take that salary out of the corporation. But realistically, it's not, it's your corporation you own, it's not such a bad deal, number one. Number two is when we actually take what you're trying to accomplish into account, it may make sense from a dollar for dollar basis when we start talking about loans, interest rates, and things like that. So that's it for this episode of Coffee with Carl. It's been great being with y'all again. As always, please take advantage of all of our free content out there. I know I'll be tuning into Tax Tuesdays because I love Toby's Tax Talks. Also, like I said, always keep up with our YouTube videos. We put out a ton of content. There's usually new stuff being released weekly, so make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow our social media. We've always got great announcements, and we'll also be broadcasting where we're coming next when we're coming to your town, or you're always welcome to visit us in Las Vegas as well. So until next time, it's been great talking with you. Thanks for joining me with this episode of Coffee with Carl.